the DNA of William Ruto is lies, more lies. It is also corruption, and it is abetting extrajudicial killings, if not planning them. And therefore, there is no way things are going to change. The elephant in the room is a deficit of trust, a deficit of good leadership. Not because Kenyans do not have good people who can lead, but because collectively, a critical number of citizens have chosen to give bad people positions of leadership. There is a great opportunity for action following the Gen Z protests. The bar of accountability was raised high because for the first time, they interrogated the issue of Harambes. If you remember, Occupy churches, which frightened churches to cancel fundraisers, and which seems now to be forgotten by the regime. And you have seen Ruto moving around, dishing out money, more money than he would earn in 5 years in just a few Harambes. And we thank the Catholic Church for leading the way in rejecting the money. Because when we talk of accountability and transparency and how our money is being abused, Harambes are actually the bedrock of corruption. That is what makes leaders require so much money to service their politics. And those who have access to being able to manipulate, steal, or award themselves in spite of conflict of interest tenders in order to get extra money, and also money for campaign and the handouts that are given. All these are part of the corruption. And therefore, we have a great opportunity to carry this conversation forward. And I'm imagining, what if we had these spaces in 47 counties? We all belong to counties. It's like having rallies without mobilizing with much money to have those spaces and this conversation. And this answers the question of civic education. Civic education, I would call it civic engagement. None of us has a monopoly of wisdom. When we come together and share ideas, we are enlightening ourselves, we are affirming ourselves. It is civic engagement that is bound to transform this country. I would like to say that a constitution is as good as the implementers. Our constitution is good. Are those of us who are implementers as good? Are the courts helping us to live our dream? There I'll answer yes and no, because in the magistrates' courts, we have seen a judge or two rejecting trumped-up charges. You remember the Morara charges? We have seen the High Court, and especially the Judicial Review Court, give very good judgments. We have seen other courts come up with very good judgments, and others with very repressive judgments. We've also seen sparks of light from the Court of Appeal, and we've seen darkness in the Supreme Court. I think we need to bring the conversation and spotlight, give flowers for the good judgment, and discuss, and with respect, take exception and differ with the bad judgments, because these are the people who are pulling us down. Every professional given an opportunity to serve Kenya must serve Kenya in the way that Kenya should be served. So we must encourage one another. And some of this encouragement is that all these officers come from us, the community. We should be able to bring pressure on them wherever we meet. Anybody implementing any part of the Constitution, whether as a security agent, a judicial officer, or a person seated in the offices, whether a passport office or IEBC, holds their office courtesy of Kenyans, because the sovereignty belongs to the people. Whatever power you have is donated by the people. There appears to be ignorance or refusal to acknowledge this fact, that whatever decision you make must be in the best interests of the people. That is where our institutions are run by you and me are letting us down. That is why we are having femicide unabated. Enforcement, investigations, the entire criminal justice system is weak. Not because the law is not good enough, but we refuse to do the right thing. And I want to agree with Professor Kibwana that I suspect some of the femicide is by the law enforcement agencies. You can't tell me that any single Kenyan can decapitate so many females and dump them in quarry without anybody noticing. The speed at which they tried to offload this to a person whom they put in custody and later released was suspect. So yes, we have a breakdown of law and order in the country and the femicides are high, but I think they are also increased by illegal activities of sections of the law enforcement agencies. Until someone explains quarry and why today that place has not been drained so that we see how many other bodies are there or whether all bodies were fished out, that remains suspect. We need not just money, and this is not so much about money. It is much more about commitment and enforcement. And if we were interested, if the administration was interested in reducing femicide, beyond enforcement, there will be a campaign, a very serious media campaign. And because the state is not the best in engaging the people, they would partner with civil society organizations, including the church, where we discuss this issue and how to solve it, where we advise young women and all women of all ages and anybody in distress, male or female, what to do, and as a nation, how we can look out for each other to bring this wanton of taking away of lives away. And I want to acknowledge it's the 16 days of activism. And I know that women's organizations, human rights organizations are all together bringing awareness and holding forums during these 16 days of activism. Very quickly, it is good that we understand that the DNA of William Ruto is lies, more lies. It is also corruption, and it is abetting extrajudicial killings, if not planning them. And therefore, there is no way things are going to change. The elephant in the room is a deficit of trust, a deficit of good leadership. Not because Kenyans do not have good people who can lead, but because collectively, a critical number of citizens have chosen to give bad people positions of leadership. Ruto did not lie who he was. He might have said the things he will do, but there's one thing he never said throughout that campaign. And one time, David D. reminded us in a tweet, they never promised to fight corruption. So how on earth did we expect that he would fulfill the promises he was giving without fighting corruption and impunity? Therefore, we say we were deceived, but we were deceived with our eyes open. So we must engage each other in our homes, in forums like this, and agree to refer back to our manual, which is the Constitution, on qualities of a good leader. On Chapter 6, on leadership and integrity, and encouraging one another that we elect leaders of integrity from the MCA right up all the 6 seats to the presidency. We also have to agree that we all grow our dreams. It is not wrong to be ambitious. So I should be led to grow myself and run. Kalonzo should be led to grow his dream and run. Omtata should grow his dream and run. And anybody else who wants to run. But we must all agree that indeed, if what we want is to bring good leadership in Kenya, that Kenya is bigger than any one of us. And that those who want to bring good leadership will at some stage converge and get a method of selecting the person who is likely to be able to dethrone this wicked regime, be the one to carry the flag. If Kenya is greater than me, then I should be happy to have it move on, even if I do not get the trophy of that position of leadership I want. But we must embrace competition and a good way of settling who becomes the flag bearer. Are we coming together as leaders to provide leadership? Yes, we are trying that in various spaces. All the initiatives you see are good, but eventually we should be able to link up. All the progressive forces should link up to be able to find common ground. Can we do a think tank? Yes, it is possible. And this is something people should volunteer to do so that there is information and research on specific issues. And there are very many ways we can do this. So there are 2 projects I see to save Kenya. One project is the short-term immediate measures. Immediate measures is continue pushing this rogue regime to adopt transparency, to be accountable. And yes, we continue demanding for information. Dr. Milton, we continue doing that. There are very many people in court, even on Adani. Our courts do not always grant us access to information. I have been penalized for asking for information from JSC, and when the court refused to give a stay, I had recently had to pay costs. But this should not deter us, because together we can be able to do it. The next project is the project of running Ruto and his rogue regime out of town. And that is the one that will need, all those projects need research, need a lot of information, and the 2 feed on each other. And if you ask what we can do right now is to push the regime to stop non-priority spending and redirect that money to people's needs. And there are so many areas of this, but I'll only mention one because people know many. Foreign travel, if you imagine that it's not only Ruto who travels, and Ruto alone, by half the year but the last year he had used over 18 billion on travel. If you imagine that it's not just him, it's also all the senior officers in all the ministries, all his members of cabinet, the 47 county assemblies, the 47 governors, the more than 470 CECs in the 47 counties, National Assembly, Senate. If you think of that, the amount of for travel is mind-boggling. Redirected, it can be enough for so many things. It can fund education, it can fund health, it can do many other things, and this is just one area. So we must continue, never tire, to ask this regime to stop wasting our money. We should not tire to fight on fighting for the rule of law, for stopping the abductions, both internally and externally. And this one of Bessie has exposed them a lot. So there are many things we can do, and we will not be able to mention all of them here. I just want to agree that we have a job to do, and it is not easy, but it is doable. And we should remember that Sudan of al-Bashir was virtually a police state, a very strong army, long years of service of Bashir, but he ended up in a prison. The same with Egypt. After Tahrir Square, Mubarak, whoever was the president then ended up in prison. China had Tiananmen Square, and that is a closed regime, but there was still a revolution. This is not impossible. We can do it, and really we must do it to save us. Thank you.